Hi, my name is Rachel Manigo, and I'm doing my topic on functional communication training. And this method actually goes hand in hand with functional behavior assessment. But first, the functional communication training is basically a strategy that's used to replace a communicative um, interfering behavior with a more socially appropriate behavior. So, a child that screams all the time to get the attention of an adult could be replaced with a child raising their hand to get the attention of the adults. So, this is basically what this is meant for. Um, but the first thing that you want to do is to find out what your behavior is that you want to do or fix, or is an interfering behavior, and then determine what purpose does it serve. So you can figure that out using the functional behavior assessment, by looking at the functional behavior assessment. As we've learned in the class, it tells us what a purpose of the behavior is, how often it occurs, where it occurs, who is there when it occurs, and you'll need all that information to work on training the student to do a different replacement behavior instead of an interfering behavior. So, the first step that you want to do is to do a functional behavior assessment. And as I said, it tells you all the information that you need to do. But once you've done your functional behavior assessment, you want to look at what reinforcers do you want to use, as well as what substitute behavior do you want to teach them. So do you want them to learn to raise their hand? Do you want them to learn to ask and use their words? Or do you want them to give a picture or a card? It can be used in all different kinds of ways, and you can use it with all different types of age ranges, including adults, and in different settings. So you can use it in school, in home, out in the community, wherever the behavior occurs. This training can be used um, to replace those interfering behaviors. So once you have figured out the purpose of the interfering behavior, so are they trying to escape? Or are they trying to gain the attention of an adult, or gain an object or item or activity? It'll let you know whatever um, that you're trying to what the behavior is doing. You figure out what you want to replace it with, and you got to make sure that it is something that can be taught fast, taught easily, and can get them results either as the same amount of time as if they were doing that interfering behavior, or faster. If you can get them to have a response faster, then that is going to be beneficial. Also, you want to make sure that it's appropriate and acceptable for the environment that the learner is in. So, if they're in a grocery store, you don't want them to raise their hands at the grocery store, because that's kind of crazy. That would make them look crazy as well, and you don't want that to happen. So, you need to find what method works best for them. What method do they like? And then when you use your replacement behavior, you want to make sure that you also figure out the reinforcer, to make sure that the reinforcer is something that they're highly interested in. If it's not something that they're interested in, then you're going to have problems trying to get them to use the behavior that you want them to use, because the reinforcer is just not interesting enough, or it's not desired enough to make them change what it is that you want them to change. So once you have all of that set into place, you want to think about, how are you going to collect data? So are you going to use tally marks? Um, I would recommend, and I've also read that it's probably best to use the functional behavior assessment. So whatever method you use during the functional behavior assessment, use it throughout the data collection process as well. That gives you your baseline, and it lets you know if things have changed, gotten worse, or gotten better. So make sure you're using some kind of a way to collect data. It could be tallies of how often the student does a behavior, or um, what times it occurs, what's going on, who's there, so forth and so on. Um, you want to make sure that the student can learn the replacement behavior by recreating the scenario and then teaching the correct or more appropriate behavior than the negative behavior. So once you have taught them that this, so if a student actually, if you decide to use like the PECS method, for instance, then they would hand you a picture. If they hand you the picture correctly, you want to reward them immediately. So whatever reinforcer that they have, then reinforce it right then and there. Um, and then you can even prompt them. So you're going to have to start off by prompting them, plain and simple. So you prompt them, they tell you, they figure out that this is what you want them to do, and then it should continue to get faster progressively as time goes on, and doing this training. And make sure you also are teaching whatever method you're doing or replacement behavior. You want to teach those that are also involved in wherever the behavior occurs. Then you want to teach the adults to see what the signs are, and also to know how to respond um, with the reinforcer. So whatever reinforcer, you want to make sure it can be done with the other um, partners that they will be learning to do this behavior with. That way, you can make this a generalized training instead of just that one situation. So after they have learned to recognize and respond to the new behavior, um, then decrease the level of prompting. So as you continue to decrease the level of prompting, they should be able to do the replacement behavior and know that they're going to get rewarded. But as you continue to go through this training process, then you will actually increase the wait time of giving the reinforcer. So it's going to be decrease number of promptings and increasing the time period between reinforcement. So that way that they don't become reliant on always gaining that reinforcer. Once you have gotten to the last final step, you want to monitor progress by using your data collection procedure. And if you begin to see some issues or in your data, then you might want to ask yourself a couple of questions. You want to ask yourself, is this reinforcer a strong enough reinforcer? Is the replacement behavior getting them results faster or slower? Or is it just not working for them? Or are they not liking this particular replacement behavior? They're not learning it quickly. Um, you can ask yourself all kinds of questions. Is it being consistently done throughout every situation that this behavior occurs? All those questions you need to ask if this is still not working for you. So after doing all that, you reevaluate the process and make changes accordingly. So one of the things I will say is that this method can be kind of difficult to use in a classroom when you're the only teacher in the classroom, because you have to pay more attention to what others or the other students in the classroom are doing. And you might not be able to give them that reinforcement quickly. But if they're in like a self-contained room, then you'll probably have more help. You'll probably be able to do all those different types of scenarios and situations and have more time to be able to reinforce them and also make it generalized. So that was one of the main issues, but it is evidence based. It does work. It's just it can be limited. from what I was seeing in the research. So if you're able to do it, then good. And if not, then this probably not might not be able be the method for you. So with that, thank you. And I hope you guys have a good day.